Tennessee's Smoky Mountains look like a harmless vacation spot, but under that soft blue fog lies one of the most dense, unpredictable ecosystems in North America. While tourists hike the trails without a second thought, locals know exactly which hollows and brush lines to avoid. The real threats aren't just the obvious predators making headlines. They are the ambushers camouflaged in the leaf litter, just feet from crowded picnic areas. Today, we are counting down the 13 most dangerous animals in the Smoky Mountains that locals refuse to go near, ending with our number one spot, a stealthy hazard that sends more hikers to the hospital than bears and snakes combined. If you love the hidden side of the wild, hit subscribe and comment below. Which mountain trail do you refuse to hike and why? Number 13, the eastern coyote. Bigger than western coyotes thanks to wolf DNA mixed into the bloodline decades ago, these animals move through the underbrush in packs after dark. A full-grown eastern coyote can weigh over 50 pounds, run in coordinated groups, and cover territory that stretches from ridge to valley in a single night without ever crossing a road twice. They rarely attack adults, but locals keep a tight leash on small pets and children near tree lines at dusk, because a coyote pack sees an unattended dog as easy prey, not a neighbor's animal. Farmers along the park border lose livestock every season, chickens and young goats mostly, sometimes a full pen overnight, and the howls you hear echoing off the ridges at night are almost always closer than the sound makes them seem. Wildlife officers say the biggest mistake visitors make is leaving pet food or trash out at a rental cabin, which trains an entire pack to associate porches with an easy meal within just a few nights. Once that habit forms, that pack rarely moves on. Some cabin owners have had to relocate entire feeding areas just to break the cycle. Number 12, wild boar. Dropped into these mountains over a century ago for sport hunting, feral hogs now tear through the underbrush in packs of a dozen or more, called sounders. They carry razor-sharp tusks, weigh up to 200 pounds, and will charge without warning if a sow feels her piglets are threatened by a passing hiker. Their rooting destroys entire hillsides overnight, flipping soil and roots in search of grubs and insect larvae buried just beneath the surface, and rangers use the torn-up ground as an early warning sign to reroute trail traffic before hikers ever cross paths with the sounder itself. Hikers who stumble onto a rooting site have been chased off trail, and locals say the worst injuries come not from the tusks, but from getting knocked down and trampled by an animal that outweighs most grown men and doesn't slow down once it commits to a charge downhill. Backing slowly toward a tree is always safer than running in the open. A sounder that feels cornered will scatter, but an individual hog rarely backs down first. Number 11, the bobcat. Silent, solitary, and almost invisible in dense brush, bobcats rarely bother humans, and most locals go their whole lives without ever seeing one up close, despite living beside them for decades in the same hollow. But a cornered bobcat is a different animal entirely. Wildlife officers have handled repeated cases where bobcats infected with rabies acted erratically in broad daylight, sometimes within sight of a full parking lot, wandering into yards, hissing at parked cars, attacking hikers without the usual fear response that keeps these cats hidden from view year-round. A rabid bobcat's claws and bite carry a viral risk that outlasts any physical wound, which is exactly why locals give everyone they spot a wide, immediate berth, rabid or not, and never assume a calm-looking bobcat is simply used to people passing through. Curiosity here is never worth the risk. A healthy bobcat wants nothing to do with you, and any that lingers is telling you something is wrong. Number 10, the black widow spider. Found under rock piles, wood piles, and old cabin foundations across the lower elevations, the female's bite injects a neurotoxin 15 times stronger than a rattlesnake's, drop for drop, though in a much smaller dose overall. Victims describe intense abdominal cramping, so severe it is regularly mistaken for appendicitis in the emergency room, along with muscle rigidity that can spread from the bite site to the entire torso within hours. Sometimes landing people in the emergency room convinced something far worse is happening internally. Children and the elderly are hit hardest by the venom's effects, occasionally requiring anti-venom treatment. Locals who clear brush or stack firewood always check gloves and boots first, because this spider builds her web low, quiet, and close to where people work with their hands, not high where it would ever be noticed before it's too late to avoid. A quick glove check has spared plenty of woodpile injuries. Anti-venom exists, but only if the bite is recognized early enough to matter. Number 9. The brown recluse. Unlike the widow, this one doesn't announce itself with pain. Its bite can go unnoticed for hours before the skin around it starts to die, a condition called necrotic wound formation that sometimes requires surgery, skin grafts, or weeks of wound care to stop from spreading further into surrounding tissue and muscle. They hide in dry, undisturbed spaces. Old barns, crawl spaces, stacked wood, forgotten boots left on a porch overnight, even folded towels in a mountain cabin closet that hasn't been used in a while by anyone. Mountain families never leave shoes outside without shaking them out first, and never reach into a dark woodpile without gloves, because this spider only bites when it feels trapped directly against skin, which happens more often than most visitors realize on vacation. Waiting for a bite to worsen is always the wrong call. What looks like a pimple on day 1 can look like a crater by day 5. Number 8. Yellow jackets and bald-faced hornets. These aren't your average backyard bee. Ground-nesting yellow jacket colonies can hold thousands of insects, and one wrong step on a hidden underground nest triggers a swarm attack that has sent hikers running blindly off trail, straight into rocks, roots, and drop-offs they never saw coming in the panic of the moment. Unlike bees, they can sting repeatedly without dying, and a single encounter can mean dozens of stings in under a minute across exposed arms, legs, and faces. Severe allergic reactions from multiple stings put more people into mountain emergency rooms every summer than most predators on this list. And rangers say late summer, when colonies peak in size and aggression, is the most dangerous window of the entire hiking season by far. Running in a straight line away from the nest is always the right move. Swatting only signals more insects to join the attack already underway. Number 7. Raccoons. Cute from a distance, but Tennessee sits inside one of the most active rabies corridors in the country, and raccoons are a leading carrier of the virus throughout the region, alongside skunks and bats. An infected raccoon loses its natural fear of humans almost overnight, wandering into campsites during daylight, moving with an unsteady, drunken gait, sometimes becoming aggressive without provocation toward anyone standing nearby. A bite or even a scratch can require a painful, expensive series of post-exposure shots if the animal can't be caught and tested for the virus afterward. Locals know the rule. Any raccoon acting friendly, sluggish, or fearless in daylight is treated as a medical emergency, not a photo opportunity, and campsites are cleared of food scraps every single night without exception, no matter how tired the day has left everyone. No exceptions, no matter how tempting the photo looks. Rangers would rather field 100 false alarms than miss one real case. Number 6. The copperhead. Camouflage is this snake's entire strategy for survival. Its coppery, hourglass-banded pattern blends perfectly into dry leaf litter and gravel alike, which is exactly why it accounts for more venomous snake bites in the southeast than any other species combined, year after year without fail. Copperheads don't flee from footsteps the way other snakes do. They freeze completely and rely on being overlooked rather than making an escape into nearby brush like a rattlesnake would. Most bite victims never see the snake until after they've already stepped on it or reached down beside it while gathering firewood or setting up camp for the night. And the bites, while rarely fatal, cause severe swelling and tissue damage that can sideline a hiker for weeks and require hospital observation. Watching where your hands land matters just as much as your feet. A walking stick tapping the trail ahead has saved plenty of ankles. Number 5. The timber rattlesnake. Larger, slower to strike, but far more dangerous venom than its copperhead cousin in nearly every measurable way, drop for drop and bite for bite. These snakes den communally in rocky, sunlit outcrops at higher elevations, meaning where there's one, there are often several dozen sharing the same crevice through the winter months before spring. Its rattle is a warning, but on windy ridgelines or over the roar of rushing creek water, that warning is easy to miss entirely until the snake is far too close to react safely to. Park rangers treat every rattlesnake report on backcountry trails as a priority call, and experienced hikers say you should always look 2 steps ahead on the trail, never straight down at your own boots while moving. That one habit alone prevents most encounters entirely. Rattlesnakes would almost always rather retreat than strike if given the chance. Number 4. The elk. Reintroduced to the Smokies in the early 2000s after being wiped out generations earlier, elk now roam the Cataloochee Valley and Oconaluftee area in growing numbers year after year. During fall rutting season, bulls become dangerously aggressive, driven by hormones and fierce competition for mates across the valley. A 600-pound animal with antlers spanning nearly 4 feet across doesn't see tourists as spectators. It sees competition, and cars, cameras, and crowds only escalate the tension in an already volatile, high-stakes situation. Rangers have had to physically block roads to keep visitors from approaching bulls, locked in testosterone-fueled standoffs. And every single year, someone gets charged for standing too close with a phone in hand, chasing the perfect shot. A long lens beats a short distance every single time. Locals give any bull, elk, and rut at least 50 yards. No exceptions, no matter the shot. Number 3. The American black bear. The Smokies hold one of the densest black bear populations anywhere in the country, close to 2 bears per square mile in prime habitat during peak season. Habituation to human food has made close encounters common along popular crowded trails near the park's most visited overlooks. Most attacks aren't predatory, they're defensive, triggered by surprise sows protecting cubs or bears cornered near a trail with no clear escape route available to them at that moment. Locals never run, never approach for a photo, and never leave food unsecured at a campsite because a food-conditioned bear stops being afraid of people entirely. And a fearless bear near humans is a bear that eventually has to be euthanized by wildlife officials for public safety. A secured cooler has saved more bears than any fence ever could. A bear that never learns cars mean food stays wild, and staying wild keeps it alive. Number 2. The eastern cougar. Officially declared extinct in the East decades ago by federal wildlife agencies, yet confirmed trail camera footage, fresh tracks in mud, and screaming calls in the night keep surfacing across the Smokies every few years, reigniting the old debate. Wildlife officials call them transient males wandering in from western populations, searching for new territory to claim. But old-timers in these hollows swear a breeding population never fully left these ridges to begin with, hiding in the most remote coves. Whether ghost or genuine resident, the idea of an apex predator moving unseen through these mountains, watching hikers pass without ever being seen itself, is enough to keep even experienced hunters checking over their shoulder at dusk on the quietest, loneliest trails. Some things in these hollows are simply never confirmed, only whispered about, passed down from one generation of hunters to the next around a fire. Number 1. The tick. No fangs, no roar, no warning growl, just a silent hitchhiker smaller than a sesame seed waiting patiently on a blade of grass for its next host to brush past. Lone Star ticks and deer ticks blanket the underbrush of these mountains from the first warm days of early spring through late fall, and their bites are responsible for more hospital visits than every single predator on this list combined, year after year without exception. Lyme disease, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and a lesser-known but rapidly spreading meat allergy called alpha-gal syndrome all start the exact same way. An unnoticed bite during an ordinary hike on an ordinary trail on an otherwise perfect afternoon. Locals check themselves head to toe after every trip into the brush, tucking pants into socks and spraying down boots before they even leave the car. Because the most dangerous animal in the Smoky Mountains was never the one with claws or fangs at all. It was the one you never even felt land in the first place, quietly doing its damage for days before anyone noticed a thing. A 5-minute check at the trailhead beats a 5-week recovery every single time, and it costs nothing but a moment of patience before heading home. That's the list. 13 threats hiding in plain sight across America's most visited national park, most of them just a few feet off the exact trail you're planning to hike this weekend. Which one surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments below, subscribe for more hidden dangers of the wild, And next time you're lacing up your boots for the Smokies, remember, the fog isn't the only thing you can't see coming.